What up, brothers and sisters? It's your brother G World 7_D at it again. Here we go. Indian Mounds of the Middle Ohio Valley. I said I was going to mention this book. Here's a book right here. It's called A Guide to Mounds and Earthworks of the Adena, Hopewell, Coal, and Fort Ancient People by Susan L. Woodward and Jerry N. McDonald. Now I'm going to turn the page. I'm going to say page 76. All right, in this book. It's going to basically continue on what I was saying before. All right. Here it is. I'm just going to read it. Early American perception of mounds. Most of the early settlers in the Ohio Valley had little or no serious interest in the mounds and earthworks they encountered, but a few did take notice. One of the most enlightened reactions to the mounds and earthworks encountered by the newcomers took place at Marietta, Ohio. In 1788, leaders of the Ohio Company of Associates just arrived from New England, formally acted to save a large part of the mound and earthworks complex they had found at the site of their new settlement where the Muskingum River joined the Ohio River. The two large rectangular enclosures, the Great Conical Mound and the graded way leading from the terrace earthworks to the Muskingum River, were set aside as public parks. Some parts of the reserve have since given way to other uses, but, nevertheless, much of this unusual complex still remains, including one of the best surviving examples of an Adena mound and circle, a Hopewell graded way, and two rare Hopewell platform mounds. Okay. It is intriguing that the Ohio Company, founders of the first organized American settlement in the Northwest Territory, set such an enlightened precedent in recognizing and valuing the prehistoric earthworks in whose midst they found themselves, and that such precedent was almost totally ignored at subsequent settlements. Even before the end of the 18th century, some mounds had become popular tourist attractions. Since many mounds and earthworks were located near the rivers, it was an easy matter for travelers to take in a local curiosity while the boat on which they were traveling was tied up at the wharf. Grave Creek Mound, near the Ohio River in what is today Moundsville, West Virginia, was perhaps the most famous of these early riverside attractions. Notice they named a lot of these cities after the mounds. All right, and here you see a picture, and a drawing of how this particular mound looked like in the 1800s. Now I'm going to read it. Figure 29. The Grave Creek Mound as it might have appeared around 1848. Grave Creek was possibly the first instance of a mound being developed as a significant tourist attraction. They're making money off our culture. This figure shows a fence that surrounded the base of the mound, the entrance to the underground museum, the observatory atop the mound, the circular stairway that ascended to the outside of the mound, and the general pastoral environment that typified the area during the middle of the 19th century. The inset shows the two tunnels and the shaft that were open when and after the mound was excavated in 1838. Now, lots of times these early excavators, man, they were doing a lot of destroying, man, and plundering and stealing a lot of artifacts, and a lot of those artifacts and a lot of in people's personal collection as of this day. So them bastards are doing a lot of stealing and just looting. Called himself doing excavation and all that jazz, man. But yeah, here is see the fence right there? And see like a little entrance? And they made this into a museum, making money off of it. Now I'm going to go on. Nearly 70 feet high and located on a high terrace looking down on the Ohio River, Grave Creek Mound dominated an important Adena mound and earthwork complex. In 1805, Meriwether Lewis reported finding the initials of numerous travelers carved in trees that were growing on and near the mound. In 1838, in an effort to enhance the mound's appeal to tourists, it was partly excavated and a museum was set up inside the excavation shaft. An observation structure was placed on top later. The museum failed and the observatory was taken down, but the mound remained a center of local attention for any number of reasons until near the end of the 19th century. It was acquired by the state of West Virginia. Another early reaction of the American settlers to the mounds and earthworks they encountered was to the name places after them. Name cities after them. Circleville, Ohio, named after the mound, was established within an earthworks complex that contained two concentric circular embankments. Some of the streets of this community were laid out in circles and were given names such as Circle Street and Circle Alley. Moundsville, West Virginia, derives its name from the numerous mounds and earthworks located there. Mount Sterling, Kentucky, reflects the many prominent Adena burial mounds that occurred in and near the settlement. The tendency to name places after the mounds was widespread, was applied to many different elements of the cultural landscape, and continued through the years. Dozens of small towns and large cities in the middle Ohio Valley have a street named Mound or Moundville, Ridgecrest, Adena Drive, Indian Mound, Mound Circle, Mound Terrace, Hopewell, and others obviously derived from the mounds and their builders. There are many mound cemeteries, and among the public parks in the middle Ohio Valley are Mound Park, Indian Mounds Park, Mound State Park, and Woodland Mound Park. Even businesses have adopted such names. The Regal Miamisburg Mound overlooks what once was the Atomic Energy Commission's Mound Laboratory, while the telephone directory of Newark, Ohio, nicknamed Mound City, contains 13 businesses using Indian Mound. Moundbuilders or Mound Cities as part of their name. Even though the Ohio Valley mounds were in the western part of what was settled frontier of the United States in the early 19th century, much of the fascination with these antiquities was among people living in the East. An important part of this interest was nationalistic. The Jeffersonian crusade to convince both Americans and Europeans that America's natural history, and perhaps even parts of its cultural history, were the equal of Europe's dragged the mounds and earthworks into the campaigns of national self-assertion and confidence building. In these numerous, large, and sometimes complex earthen features was a prehistoric validation of advanced vision, organization, and enduring accomplishments. Daniel Webster, one of the nation's more eloquent senators, had a personal interest in Western antiquities. In 1833, he attended the commencement at Kenyon College in Gamer, Ohio, where he heard a youthful Edwin H. Davis give a graduation address titled Antiquities of Ohio. Webster encouraged Davis to continue with his interest in the subject. Later, Webster would make a revolutionary proposal that the Newark earthworks be acquired by the federal government as a national park, and Davis, who became a physician, would help underwrite and co-author one of the most important pioneer studies in the North American archaeology. Most citizens of the Ohio Valley, however, viewed the mounds and earthwork passively and assigned them relatively little importance. Occasionally, cemeteries were established around mounds, which provided a degree of protection because the primary land used presented little physical threat to them. Mounds that have survived because they were incorporated into cemeteries occur at such places as Aurora, Indiana, Shannon, Kentucky, Chester, Fairmount, Piketon, Riley, and Tilsonville, Ohio, and South Charleston, West Virginia, figure 30 for plate 11. Other settings that were often safe for mounds included institutional grounds, recreational areas, residential plots, and generally inaccessible sites. Also, most of the thousands of mounds and earthworks that were in Ohio Valley, however, were not protected by location or other serendipitous factors and either have been destroyed or altered to extent that their identity is lost to all but the most perceptive or informed of observers. Agriculture, inundation by reservoirs, urban and industrial development, and the construction and transportation system have been responsible for the destruction or degradation of most mounds and earthworks, like I said before. Excavation by curiosity seekers, looters, and amateur and professional archaeologists, like I just mentioned, too, have altered or destroyed many mounds, especially during the 19th century and early part of the 20th century, before modern research methods and objectives and legislative control were implemented, and public awareness and concerns were heightened. Natural and human-induced erosion has also taken its toll on the mounds and earthworks. Now, Here's a picture of the mound in the cemetery. Fairmount Mound, Licking County, Ohio, doubly protected, adjacent to Fairmount Cemetery and Fairmount Presbyterian Church. All right. So I guess when it's near, it was near some dead bodies, people say, "Who cares?" Right? And then here's a particular mound. It says right here, Infirmary Mound, Licking County, Ohio, has been significantly leveled by decades of agriculture and is representative of many mounds and earthworks in Middle Ohio Valley and elsewhere that were significantly altered or destroyed by cultivation, trampling by livestock. Today, this mound located beneath the arrow of the photograph is part of a infirmary mound park. So a lot of these mounds were destroyed, for numerous reasons. Like I said, to open up to build when it was building highways, small cities, businesses, factories, and as well as farming. They helped destroy a lot of these mounds that our ancestors built. But also, what I also read, it was talking about how a lot of these cities were named after mounds. Our history is very significant. Our history is very powerful. And a lot of these people know about our history, but we don't know about our history. And this is something I just want to also touch on. Excuse me. I'm trying to get this done fast. I said I was going to talk about this book about our mound history. I have plenty of books on mounds. I have a bunch of other books on mounds, but we need to basically continue to research our history here in America as well as globally. But here's a book, Indian Mounds of the Middle Ohio Valley. A Guide to Mounds and Earthworks of the Edina, Hopewell, Cole, and Fort Ancient People by Susan L. Woodward and Jerry M. McDonald. Now, I want to show another book real quick, and because this is something that's really been covered up from us, and we should really know this, and that we are the true Indians. But this is something I want to talk about, and like I said, I do my research. But here's another book that I'm going to eventually talk about. So, is this one right here. It's called The Middle Ground. Indian Empires and Republics in the Great Lakes Region, 1650 to 1850, by Richard White. Excuse me. This is Cambridge, man. This is our history, man. It's right in front of our face, man. This is an Indian. Obviously a black man. Okay, this is not no African. This is an Indian. This is with the Great Lakes region. Like I said before, we sail around the world, but here in the Americas, we use the Mississippi. Not only Mississippi, we use the Colorado, Ohio River, the Illinois River. You know how they connect. Mississippi River, the Illinois River is coming from the Mississippi River. All these different rivers connect. So we use those different rivers to travel within and around North and South America. So this is another book that's dealing with our history, the Middle Ground, Indians and Empires, the Republic in the Great Lakes region. And so I'm just give you this information too. And there's one more I want to show you. Yeah, I got a couple more, but this one will show you another one about our history. Because I want brothers and sisters to do their own research. Here's another one. The Book of the Indians of North America, details and the lives about the 500 chiefs and others, and you can see that's a Negro. We've been lied to, man. We've been really lied to. All right, this is a short one. I may pick some more stuff out of this book. This is a good book. It's a smaller one than the other one. The other one was really, really great book, and I really enjoyed that one by Gregory Little. But this is a good book too. All right, brothers and sisters. There's another book, another review I did of Moundbuilders. I'm going to talk about some other stuff too. All right, I'm going to also eventually lean in this one. But I want to talk, so I got something on the Etruscans too. A big old coffee table book that I want to talk about history. So I don't want to seem like I'm rambling now. But this is just some good information. I want to give you sources, continue to give you sources so you can do your own research and to realize that you've been lied to. All right? Your ancestors were not brought over in no slaves, man. I mean, some were brought over as slaves, but most of your ancestors were already here. Many of the blacks who came over here in boats came over from Europe. They were expelled from Europe. Europe had something called a 100-year war and a 30-year war. All right, and a lot of those blacks from the 30-year war were expelled here to the Americas, man. And the 30-year war, I want to say, lasted from 1618 to 1648. All right, so a lot of your blacks who were coming over in ships were coming from Europe. All right, so that's just something for you to think about. Um, you need to do the research, put in the effort. The information's there. Do not listen to these Pan-African. Do not listen to these Negro professors, because most of them have been compromised. And like I said before, they've been educated by white folks, or Negroes who was educated by white folks. All right? Do not listen to most of them, man. Our history is all through these Americas, man. All over the world, actually. But the slave narrative is getting on my nerves, man. Because, you had black slave owners in the South who owned only black but whites as slaves, man. When you start studying and realizing that, man, you realize that how much not only you've been lied to, but how manipulative these bastards are in this country, man. They really manipulated the minds of not only our youth, but so many of our seniors have grown up believing this lie when they were young, and now some are actually coming to waking up as they older, but they did not know their true history because all of us have been miseducated. So I was lucky to have educators in my family, and I had access to a certain number of things, and I was able to counter that BS. But we've been hoodwinked, man. We've been lied to, really lied to. And these universities, man, you get in debt, paying all that money to go to these universities, only to really realize that all what you have learned is not even true. It's mostly a lie. So, all right then, brothers and sisters, that's my little upload for today. I'm gonna try to do one this weekend, and then I'm gonna try to take a little break until Memorial Day, or I may just stick in another one. So, all right then, peace and love. I love you.